Hello, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations about Culture, the podcast where myself and a few of my friends get together and discuss nerdy things. Just a reminder, if you like what you're listening to, please subscribe to Seriously Pointless Conversations YouTube channel, or you can find us on your favorite podcasting apps. Thank you for your support. Without you, none of this would be possible. Thanks for coming by. Now let's get into the episode. Hi, and welcome to Seriously Pointless Conversations about Culture, your seriously pointless podcast about all your nerdy geek things across time and the empty void, brothers and sisters, which is Azathoth. I totally messed that intro up, but
he who's the gate and the key.
That
he
is
who
right.
To the threshold.
All
the
hail
black goat with 1,000 young.
All hail the old ones. Today, guys, if you haven't figured it out, James and I are going back to the tabletop realm. We did quite a few video games the last couple episodes, so I think, yeah, pretty much the whole year.
It's time to mix it up a little bit.
We're going freestyle it a bit. You know what I mean? So we're going to go into one of my favorite RPGs, and actually, it's a good alternative that we've been playing for a while to Dungeons and Dragons or 5.0 and Pathfinder 2.0, the Call of Cthulhu RPG. So,
yes. In particular, we've played, the 7th edition?
Yes.
There's a million editions that are very, very similar to each other, so don't stress.
We'll get into it in a little bit, but this setting is actually almost as old as D&D, which is interesting. Yes. It's about a decade younger, but it's comparatively, it's one of the older
for sure.
older settings that they have.
Of course, based on the works of HP Lovecraft.
Yeah, obviously.
As opposed to D&D, which is mostly ripped straight out of Tolkien, though don't tell the Tolkien Foundation that.
Yeah, I know.
I'm pretty sure they lost a lawsuit to that effect.
I would believe it. You can't really you can't really slap a trademark on elves and dwarves and stuff. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's been beaten to death. But before we get into the squiggly tentacle goodness, James, what have you been up to, man? Because we've had a little bit of a stretch here. So
I've mostly been working my butt off. It's not been great.
Is that how you are? I'm going to call you our Mr. Workhorse.
I've been a workhorse. Thanksgiving was punishing.
But the question is,
y'all need to stop getting sick.
Do you look good in the doctor's coat, though?
I do. I cut a nice figure.
Damn right you do.
I do.
I'm going to point this out. So our listeners, we don't have any video of stuff, but shout out to James. He's been doing great. Been losing a little weight. You're looking trim, as they would say.
Good. I like that.
Sexy.
I appreciate it.
And so you're turning all the nurses' heads as they are.
I don't know about that.
Turn on my head. That's all you need to turn. But other than work, what have you been doing in distress?
See. I played Sea of Stars, but it's probably been like months since I actually played it. We just took a trip to Mexico, actually. That's probably the most recent fun thing. That's about 3 weeks ago.
Viva la Mexico.
Yes, we got the 6th floor suite, so the top floor suite. And we had like a little infinity pool overlooking the ocean. You could just see, Playa del Carmen. We were in Playa del Carmen, and you can just see the island out there.
Nice.
And it was, one thing I particularly enjoyed is that whenever the sea breeze and the wind for like the afternoon storm started kicking up, the wind cuts across the front of the hotel.
Okay.
And since we're on the top level, all of the seabirds, like the hawks and everything, they bank right in front of that building.
Heck yeah,
and they keep going up. So at one point we had, I think, 6 hawks, 2 falcons, like 2 seabirds, and a pelican, all making circles around this pool. And they're cutting out in front of our little infinity pool, like 10, 20 feet away from the bar.
And you're just sitting
and
there.
We're just sitting there. I'm sitting there with the beverage in one hand. It's drizzling on us because, of course, it's raining lightly, but I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there drinking and watching the birds.
You're 4 deep already. You don't care at all.
It's fine. And it was a lovely week, I have to say.
I 100% understand, man. I told Jackie, whenever the kids get old enough, that's the first thing on my list, or even maybe in a couple of years, because I know you guys have invited us down there several times. And I think in the next couple of years, once Stephanie's old enough, we are 100% going to take you up on this, because I am dying for a vacation without kids at this point in my life. I love my kids, but you know how it is. It's just like, it's kind of like going on vacation with your parents. You're just like, it's not the same. It's different when you go with friends and stuff like that. But yeah, I cannot wait. I know you've taken my brother-in-law and my sister with you guys a couple times, and they've had a blast. So I look forward to this immensely. So, but yeah. But other than that, I know you did Sea of Stars and your trip on vacation. Did you do Have you had a chance to watch anything or chill or anything
I've
else?
been watching a lot of this season's anime.
Okay.
And one we're going to watch for our next episode,
Yeah.
Freeman Journey's End, is, I think, by far the best thing that came out this season.
Check it out.
We've been referring to it in my household as the sad show. It's just wonderful to watch. So
sometimes the best shows make you feel things.
Yeah, it's about an elf mage who is part of the hero's party, but the hero was a human, and so he died.
Okay, well, don't.
Of old age.
No, don't ruin it too much because
we're going to talk about it next. We'll talk about it next episode.
Next episode,
that was really good. Goblin Slayer has gotten another season, so Goblin Slayer season 2.
Okay, so season 2.
It's been pretty cool. It's half focused on Goblin Slayer and half focused on like some young heroes. It's kind of like training the next generation. It's been a lot of it.
I'd be down with that.
That one's been pretty good.
I liked that series. That was a pretty good series.
Yeah.
But that's a long hiatus between the first and second season, though.
Yeah, a lot of those things that came out like right before COVID, their development cycle got interrupted.
Like hardcore.
Yeah. Magus Bride has another season coming out right now.
Ooh, I told Jackie about
that. And then Dr. Stone has one too, though. I've got to say, Dr. Stone is, I don't know, it's losing its magic. Like
so when they get to, so how are you? Are you all caught up?
I got through the first half of the second season. I have not watched the second half of the second season.
So you're talking about where they got to the island and everything?
I got to where they got to the island, and he had like just broken open the time capsule and was getting caught, and we haven't watched past that. It's just kind of...
That's where I'm at, too.
They've hit like this point of momentum where the early part of the series was fun because they had to like work for each bit of progress.
Yeah.
And they've hit kind of the snowball point where everything just kind of magically happens.
And you're just kind of like, eh.
It's lost its magic. It's not the same anymore.
No. It's kind of where I'm kind of at. I'm like, it's fun, but I'm like, it's on a back burner. I will probably wait until the rest of the second season comes out, and then
I'll probably watch it eventually. But
it's on definitely on the back
burner. It's like
they're
trying to have that victory moment 3 times a show, like 3 times an episode.
Yes,
and it's just like you guys didn't earn this. I don't feel it anymore.
It's they've turned on the spigot on full blast as opposed to letting it drizzle out a little bit here and there.
It's become like an all worship the god of science type show.
Yes,
and it's. Instead of like at the beginning, it was like the triumph of mankind's ingenuity, and now it's like, isn't this great? And it's like, no,
that's not how I feel about that. So
anyway, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Oh my goodness!
I think you were saying you've been playing Doom Eternal lately.
So that's what I did recently. A part of me was saying to myself, man, Dave, I haven't played a shooter in so long. So I was looking around on the Game Pass because I was like, I don't really want to pay for anything right now. And I'll be honest with you, I really wanted to buy Baldur's Gate, but I just can't bring myself to pay that much, especially since I know they're probably going to release an expansion pack for it at some point. If they don't, they're morons. And I'm sure they're going to bundle that all up within the next year or so and have it on discount. And I will probably buy it then, like I do with most of my games, and then I can sink 180 hours into it.
That definitely looks like the type of game that people have been sinking obscene amounts of time into.
I know, that makes me feel really good about it. And fun fact, I don't know if you saw the Game Awards. Congrats to them. They won Game of the Year at the Game Awards.
They
this year.
Deserved it. I mean,
100%.
They made a game so good that the developers of other RPGs were posting on Twitter that people shouldn't have that sort of expectations about their game.
Exactly.
And I'm like, wow, that's a flex right there.
100%. Dude, they cleaned house though. They pulled. I think they got best art direction, best performance in a game by one of their actors. There was a bunch of stuff they won. I mean, the only person that came close behind them was like Alan Wake. They won like 2 awards. But surprisingly, like Starfield didn't win anything. Spider-Man didn't win anything. Spider-Man 2 didn't win anything.
Yeah.
It was kind of amazing the amount of like they just cleaned house this year. But anyways, I'll probably get that at some point. But other than that, it's been a while since I've done this, James. I paid $60 for a game.
You bought a new game?
I did. But
I buy new games, but I can't remember the last time you paid full price.
Do you know what it was, though?
What was it?
Super Mario RPG, the remake.
Oh, the remaster. I've been thinking about whether I want to buy it or not.
It is. I will let you borrow my Switch if you want to play it, dude. It is 100% worth
100% worth it?
Dude, okay, so it's not even... I have played more... So normally when I played the old one, I would get to the end of the game and I really wouldn't do a lot of the in-game content, like where you go back and replay some people, or fight some people again. Dude, they have added so much stuff. They retextured everything. Mm-hmm. It's all, and that's still that 2.5D style.
Yeah.
And
isometric.
Yeah, and on top of that, they've upped the graphics. Obviously, they've put in some stellar cutscenes in there. You have like this little gauge now that you can build up, and you can build super. They're called superstar or triple moves, is what they call, or triple move.
Cool.
And so it depends, and they're all different depending on who's on your team. So plus they put a ton of extra in-game content in there. So I beat that, and I beat the game a while back, and I'm actually replaying and going through and getting all the extra fighting all the extra bosses that they have basically they take some of the old bosses and then they just up the difficulty quite a bit, and some of them are actually decently hard.
Have you fought like the Xenon guy yet?
Yeah, I actually beat him once. So once you can beat him once, and he's the regular 2D, right?
Yeah.
You have to, once you beat everyone, all the extra guys, you can go back and fight him again, and he's 3D, and he is like almost like 3 times as hard as he was the first time.
It was pretty brutal the first time.
Exactly. I'm telling you,
they've added a lot to that. I might have to actually get that then. I'll have to buy that.
So the main game definitely is not super duper challenge. It's you have to think a little bit, obviously, here and there, but I don't think I ever lost a battle. Like, I don't think I ever lost a battle just going through the main storyline. The first time I actually had my party faint on me was some of the in-game content. The first time ever.
I mean, even playing it as little kids, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah, no.
I remember we kind of got stuck on the Pirate King back in the day.
Johnny Jones, yeah.
Yeah, Johnny Jones was kind of rough for us back in the day. We were a little under level, but other than that, it was pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you stay leveled, you're fine, dude. And I kind of did that. I kind of ground a little bit. But I was like level 24, 25 when I fought Smithy. That was fine, dude.
Yeah.
There was a couple little things I had to do. I looked up some strats a little bit, but nothing crazy. So played that. Been playing with Lewis and Marcy. They actually watched me play it. They're having a ball with it. So
wonderful.
So Lewis counts the times I jump on people with Mario. So
there you go.
Guess what? It's educational as well, kids. There you go. But yeah, that's what I've been doing. What else have I watched? I've powered through all of Vinland Saga, the first season.
Yeah.
Again, it's the second time watching it through because I forgot about it, and when we watched it last time, I was like, I kind of want to watch this again. So
yeah.
I started watching that again. It's been on the background when I've been working here at home, having a blast with it. That's a good time because you don't really have to pay a ton of attention, but when you do, it's good. It's usually with the gory, bloody parts. But yeah. But anyways. So that's what I've been up to. So now, I guess, is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into
I think let's start with
the yawning void, as it were?
Yeah, and Cthulhu as an RPG is something I find interesting. I mean,
why?
So first of all, we started playing this game with you.
Yeah.
David is doing our dungeon mastering currently, and we're doing like a little Cthulhu section. It's fun because it's a kind of a grounded fantasy as opposed to D&D, which is high fantasy, and it's a fantasy world, a total fantasy setting. Cthulhu, we usually play it like in the 1920s version, which is kind of like the classic Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
And it's historically grounded, which makes for interesting role-playing because everyone is kind of working from the same, fantasy in their head. So I think for our group, at least, it's made much more interesting role-playing. Oh. But the other thing, though, is that as a fantasy, it's such a inversion of what we commonly think of. Like, for example, this is kind of like the whole Cthulhu mythos. It's like, we're Christians, so even if the world sucks sometimes, we believe that ultimately, we believe in a God that is ordered towards love, and ultimately there's a point to all this.
Yes.
HP Lovecraft turns that on its head.
100%.
The world is fundamentally pointless. Yep. Your suffering is not only without merit, but it actually hastens the end of the world.
Yes.
It's like it's not even as good as a totally godless world would be. In fact, the universe is trying to kill you.
Yep.
And that the very knowledge which enables you to beat back the darkness is corrupting you inherently.
Yep.
Like it's
from the mind of a man with some severe mental issues.
Yes. It's like all in the world of Lovecraft, all knowledge, whether it's scientific or spiritual or anything, is inherently corrupting.
Yep.
And the pursuit of such is what is going to end the world. Yep. And the very tools you use are working against you. And it's the sort of thing that's fun to dabble in. I don't think we could play this like for months and months and months. It would be a sort of spiritual cramp, I think, after a while.
100%. So this is why you call on me, because this is definitely my wheelhouse. So this is definitely like Hellboy adjacent, which is why I love it so much. But that's just, maybe I have a bit of a dark part of my mind that this just tickles and touches it perfectly, because
I think everyone does. I mean,
I love that.
It's the dark reflection. I mean, everyone likes to think about it.
I know, 100%. And but it's like you said, it's that fact of like, is there a point to like all this, and like, is there a point of even just trying? And I kind of like, I try to weave that in through the storyline, and you'll see as we go along in the story that it's just like, you can tell like I'm going to start irritating people probably at a certain point, which is good.
Looking forward to it.
Which is why, like you said, you can only play these sessions. I can't imagine doing this for an entire year.
No,
it would be so rough, but
soul crushing.
100%. But I think the first time we actually played this, we've done a couple of one shots.
We haven't done like a 5 or 6 shot yet, so I don't know if the whole group realizes what they're in for. Yes. Like in one shot format, it's kind of like, something bad happened and we fixed it, and it's heroic fantasy adjacent still, even if it's a dark setting.
Yeah.
I suspect there's not going to be heavy into this one.
What are you talking about, James? What are you talking about?
It's like in Cthulhu, the best thing you can hope for is a Pyrrhic victory.
I can amend the ending. You can have a happy birthday ending, and everyone can be happy. Just maybe not the happy you're thinking about.
I want to suffer.
Let me suffer, please.
I mean, because this is what Cthulhu is, though. This is the dark daydream. It's the nightmare. Yep. This is the thing when you're laying in bed at night and you're scared for your life and you're wondering, is there actually a point to things? Like this is the nightmare we tell ourselves.
Yep. It's the fear that you can never see.
Yeah.
That's why it's so tantalizing and so interesting, but it's also the most terrifying thing you could possibly think about, right?
Yes.
That's why I love it to death. So anyways, let's do a little background on the Cthulhu RPG. So obviously, like we said, this is a horror fiction role-playing game based on HP Lovecraft's story of the same name, and it's associated with the Cthulhu mythos. So it's a RPG that's been published by, and I'm going to butcher this, Chaosium, and it was first released in 1981. I have to say that for people now, and I say 81. I just assume that people think 1981. I know, right? Just goes to show.
Just think there'll be some schmuck listening to this podcast 100 years from now. Like, I wish he was clearer.
Much clearer, gosh. Made in 1981, and it's actually we're playing right now, which is in the 7th edition. So, but it's been licensed across the world, obviously, and it's obviously one of those basic horror genre RPGs, but it does have a few tweaks here and there that kind of make it different than your standard D&D thing. So
this is what I would call cosmic horror.
Yes.
It's where the entire universe is an inherently horrific thing.
Yes.
As opposed to like a vampire horror where, there are vampires, but the good guys still win in the end.
Yeah.
Or a slasher horror where, there's someone doing brutal things, but again, they lose in the end and the good guys win.
Yeah. I was trying to, I can spoil this for the last campaign that I had with you guys. I was trying to kind of gently move you guys into that realm a little bit by having the vampires with it, but I also had like the sanitarium, like when you guys went to the basement and there was like just an entire, it was just bodies, like they've been chopped up and like sewn, like kind of taken apart, things like that. And I was kind of trying to like feed that in a little bit, but I was just like, this is not quite there yet. I'm like, and plus that's the downside of doing a one shot. I was like, I can't go full ham hock on this, but I feel like with this, now that I kind of stretched it out a little bit, I can kind of like feed these things a little bit more for you guys.
Dial it up a little bit each week, and people will kind of feel it creeping up on them.
Well, you felt it a little bit last week, last time we played. It's just so tangentially there.
Yeah. Right now, it's working in the background.
Yes, and I have a feeling that. I don't know. I have a feeling that a couple of the people that are playing with us, they're not going to like this as much.
I believe so. I think Jackie and Tara are going to profoundly dislike this once they realize what exactly it's about.
I know. She thinks it's fun and fancy, but and they're having fun. But at some point, it's I'm going to start ratcheting it up, especially tomorrow. I'm kind of start cranking it in a little bit, and they're going to start not liking it as much. But hopefully by that third episode, I might have somebody look at me like, why do I have to do this again? Do I have to play this game again one more time?
Well, and that's part of the fun of doing something like this. That's also whenever we play Paranoia and I'm doing it, and I'm actually doing it well.
Yeah,
it's when you can feel the pressure on your psyche. That's when you know that it's in the zone. I mean,
yes, 100%, 100%. So. I like I said, I put the nice, friendly little old lady there for you guys to play around with.
Oh, yeah.
Part alcoholic, whatever. But anyways, so.
I'm just waiting for her to, try and stab us and carve the elder into our chest or something.
She would never do such a thing. She's a good person, James.
She's a good person?
She's a good person that you know of. Anyways, so, obviously, like we said, so this is all based on HP Lovecraft stuff. And it's based on the same name, but primarily in the setting for this, you can really have the setting anywhere that you want in the whole world. This is something I really thought was really interesting. I actually saw a module for some of the newer stuff, the 7th edition. They actually had one based down in Australia, which is kind of cool, I thought. So
Australia would be cool.
But so...
There's a lot of wilderness out there, so it'd be different than England.
I know even New England at that point.
Yeah.
A lot of these settings get stuck in New England, which is where the Dunwich horror and a lot of stuff are
it
set at.
It tends to be urban or rural town type things, but not really wilderness because people are kind of the evil here. So
yeah. That is 100%. So let me ask you this though, James. If you were to put up a setting for this. See, I've done a couple kind of smaller towns, and this is probably the first big town I've done. Mm-hmm. Where would you want to, James, if you had the option to build your own Call of Cthulhu campaign, where would you put the setting at?
I don't know. I have to think about it because it would depend on what type of thing you were going to be doing because,
there's so many, James.
Well, because the usual thing with Lovecraft is that knowledge is the source of the danger.
Yep. Whether
it's a small town or not, like the Innsmouth horror, for example, he's a eldritch being looking for knowledge, and so he leaves his small town to go to the university, and that's where he gets found out.
Yep.
But a university would be a natural setting for it.
Mm-hmm.
You could do in Italy, somewhere in the church would be interesting.
That would be interesting, yeah.
Though that's kind of been overplayed, I think, at this point.
Yeah, a little bit. So I would love to do
a university, an old English, boarding school university might be interesting.
I always thought would be a really fun place to do would be either the Middle East or India.
Yeah.
For some reason, because that's not a setting that we've really played in all that much. We specifically us, but I think it would be really, really fun because it's outside of our wheelhouse, and it also give me an excuse to really delve deep into that culture a little bit more.
India would be interesting, and I guess the question too is that would this be from the perspective of natives, or would this be perspectives of the East India Company? We would be playing the British.
Yep.
And then it would be kind of through the lens of the cultural.
You're outside. You're kind of fish
outside of looking in,
fish out of water kind of thing. Yeah,
it would take a fair bit of sensitivity to do that well, but I think it would be very interesting.
Oh yeah,
you have to really research that one.
Yeah, 100%, because that is definitely an area of the world that I'm not that familiar with. Mm. So it'd be really interesting. So, but yeah, I don't know how much, but primarily, obviously. They do like to stay
I think
in New England and things like that. I think
what might be fun would be do a boarding school type situation or a board school thing in Old England where you are students starting your secondary or tertiary education and things are happening on the college campus and you're trying to join an organization or something, kind of a Rush Week type thing, and you get pulled into something terrible that's been going on.
I could see that, yeah. You mean kind of a Mazes and Monsters type?
Something like that, yeah.
Have you ever seen that movie at all?
I have not.
Tom Hanks, actually.
Tom Hanks, really?
It came out in the early 80s. It was an anti-Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh man,
Have you never seen this?
I've not seen that one.
My mom bought it for us whenever I was like in high school because, or I don't know, maybe she bought it.
Did she do this intentionally?
I don't know if she did intentionally, but it's basically so Tom Hanks plays this kid. He starts playing the dungeon, the stereotypical Dungeons and Dragons, and at some point he kind of starts to lose touch with reality.
Oh no,
that bullshit, right? And eventually they like, well, we should go, like, we're gonna do like a live action role play, and we're gonna go down to the sewers and fight the Minotaurs, and he gets lost somewhere down there, and they find him like days later, and he's just like, I don't know where I am, and I'm like, the fuck is this shit?
Oh no.
Yeah, it was pretty bad to say the least.
That
so.
Sounds pretty heavy-handed.
Yeah, it's very heavy-handed. I remember when I watched it, I'm just like, what is going on here? And I'm just like, this is dumb. I think I watched it like twice, and that was it. And I'm like, because I like the first part where they're like, we're having fun, we're playing a game. And I'm like, after that, I'm like, I'm done. It was so bad. It was like one of those videos, it's like family feature films or whatever things. Like they really just, they lay it on thick kind of thing. So, but yeah, so the main setup of this, obviously they change a few things around with the between the setting and the gameplay with this. Obviously, they just change names like DMs, Keeper. You guys are investigators, which players, whatever it is. But other than that, they really only things they change are the game mechanics, like how you interact with things a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they just changed the names, like a lot of things.
It's kind of a low skill system or a low heroism system.
Yes, very much.
For character creation, you have like your 6 core stats. They're renamed, but there's like your strength, your constitution, your dexterity. I think there's an intelligence, an education, and like an appearance stat.
Yep. And
you literally it's effectively like just rolling 3d6 down the table type thing. Yep. And you get 0 to 90-ish scores in all those. And then for most of the game, it's percentile dice. You roll D%, and if you roll under the threshold, then you succeed. And you spend your skill points, and I think at most you can have a 75 in a skill.
And 80. I think I've seen 80 is the highest. So that's if you dump extra in there.
If you fully specialize, you'll be 80% likely to succeed. Now, I can tell you in practice, the characters are probably only getting 50s or 60s in the things they're actually wanting to be good at, and their secondary and tertiary skills might have a 25% chance of success. Yep. So it's you will fail often and frequently, and that's
okay.
It's baked into the system, though.
To be fair, though, that's also a lot of like normal life, right?
Yeah.
It's more, like you said, it's grounded in that realism of like,
it's not heroic fantasy.
It's that you're going to have problems doing everything whenever you first, even if you're proficient in something. It's kind of like like building a computer. It's like the first time you built a computer, you probably messed up how you set it up, or even like loading it up and then having your graphics card settings set up or like that. You probably had to learn a few times down the road and learn how to tweak it, right? But even now, you do it again, you might mess up on something, even though we've done this for several years, right? That's the whole premise behind it.
It's like, and as a system, like it's primarily based around social interaction and exploration.
Yes, very much.
I mean, the quintessential Cthulhu thing is kind of the mystery, where the investigators come into an area, they find something crazy happening, they investigate and explore it, and eventually there's a resolution at the end, which may or may not include a little bit of combat.
Yes.
What combat there is extraordinarily deadly.
Yes.
And like your basic pistol does like 2d6 or 3d6 damage in one round, and the average person has like 8 to 10 hit points.
Yeah, like nothing.
It's like you can die really, really fast.
And that is why I always, whenever...
So, like, you're heavily incentivized to avoid and mitigate danger wherever possible, because even just, like, taking a risky jump and taking a d6 of damage is crippling.
Yes. And that's why I'm interested to see how some of our players, and I'm talking hypothetical, obviously, some of the players that we have in our group, they're slanted more for the action-oriented stuff. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling in the next couple sessions, when they try to do things, and there's a certain individual, I'm fairly sure you know who I'm talking about, they're going to try to do things, and I think they're going to be very disappointed. Possibly. That's just me, though.
Because like,
just because that's it's like, are you really going to try to do X, Y, and Z whenever you're obviously like, yeah, you might be the best at this thing that you're doing, like sword fighting possibly, but are you really going to try and fight like 3 crazy guys with clubs and stuff?
And that's like, exactly it. Like, I made my character for this as like an ex-military guy. I'm like the military husband.
Yeah.
And I made him fairly combat proficient, but I knew I was making the wrong decision as I did it. I mean, I did this for role-playing reasons.
Yeah, well,
and I'm tooting around a shotgun and stuff, and I'm sure when I fire it the one time for the campaign, it's going to be glorious. But at the end of the day, the person who invested in, the spot skill probably is going to be more useful to the group.
100%, yeah. And to be fair, that's kind of why I was kind of surprised whenever... here, I'll just say her. Shayna, I was really surprised when Shayna put more of a spot skill in it. So did Tara, actually. I was kind of surprised. Mm-hmm. They put a ton of like points in that. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'm glad they did that. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of, actually Kelly did that too. Between those 3, I was like, we're covered. And like, this is great.
They give you guys an idea of the best skills in Cthulhu. Library use,
and
spot hidden are probably your 2 core skills.
But to be fair, those are also the skills that you're most likely...
and psychology, those 3.
Those 3 are the most ones that are also the most likely to get you
in trouble.
In trouble with insanity points, too. So it's always a fun...
Well, and that's, again, the trade-off of the Cthulhu mythos, right?
Exactly, right?
Knowledge will save you, but it will also destroy you.
100%. So...
And that's actually something which the Keeper can do if you're playing a long-time campaign, is that the further you push it, he will start to award you damage your sanity, and if you really push it, he'll start to award you points in the Cthulhu Mythos skill.
Yes.
Which, again, is extraordinarily useful, but will just hasten your downfall.
100%.
It's like, congratulations, you've gained magic powers. Oh, no.
And that's another thing that's in here, too. So they do have some magic-based skills in here, but you never get to use them without extremely detrimental consequences.
Yes. You can't start the game with them.
Yes.
And then 2, even if you do manage to learn them, they will drive you insane in short order.
Yes.
Like, there's no succeeding on them.
Not at all. It's one of those things, like, I looked at it and I'm like, I was like, I have yet to see, I would love to see a campaign where somebody tries to use it. And I've been trying to find some videos of it. But, like, I think I maybe found one video of somebody actually having a character that's, like, super focused on the occultism side of the stuff. But, like, 90% of the other videos, nobody even touches the occult or the magic side of stuff. Because I guess it's just, nobody's that, daring is the word I gotta say for it. So,
it's the type of game where, recovering your D6 of hit points you hypothetically lost breaking an ankle or something takes, like, a week in a hospital.
Yep.
Or months. Like, it's a high realism game. So
that's what I really enjoy about it. So let me ask you this. Out of most of the RPGs, where would you rank this one on, like, enjoyability? I mean, obviously it's got a different flavor than some of the other stuff, but I know, and every RPG kind of has its own, like, point, right? Of, like, why you want to play it, but, like, just relatively.
So I find it extremely enjoyable. I think as a system, it is well designed to foster the sort of game it's trying to produce.
Yes.
As opposed to something like Dungeons and Dragons, like 4th edition, it's like 5th edition.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a Jack of all trades fantasy game. I mean, it's geared towards heroic fantasy, but it's really kind of straddling the line between tactical game and heroic game and social game, and it's kind of a Jack of all trades game.
Yeah.
I mean, this system is designed to produce a certain type of game, and it does it very well.
Yes.
So I find it extremely enjoyable when I'm looking for that sort of experience.
Good.
And so, as an occasional spice up to our year of gaming, it's great. I've always enjoyed our Cthulhu sessions immensely.
Well, good, because
again, if we tried to play 6 months straight, I don't know if I could handle it.
It would be soul crushing.
It would be soul crushing.
Thus its intended result. So
exactly. I think doing like this short series of games is going to be great. I'm very much looking forward to finishing it all.
Well, good. So that's what I said. That's kind of why I was getting those moods. Like, I don't know. If sometimes I love playing your guys' campaigns, but every once in a while I'm just like, I love the more role playing style of stuff, which is kind of what they do in this. But I told Jackie when I got back the other night, I'm like, I'm just like mentally exhausted from having to keep up with you guys.
Oh, and that's being the dungeon master is incredibly exhausting.
Yes. Well, so between that and also like the back and forth, like just role playing that you have to do.
Because you're trying to manage the story, you're trying to control the pace, and you have to manage the personalities of everyone at the table. Oh, and then you're supposed to voice and act out 6 characters simultaneously, and then oh wait, we need to get to the next thing because I'm running out of time for the evening. And
yes,
it's a lot of work.
And I don't get me wrong, Jackie said I paced it pretty good, but I was just like, man, I hadn't done that in probably it was almost a year, about a little over a year, and I was just like, man, I haven't done this in a while. I'm so tired.
You did a very good job. And
well, that's good.
And that's one thing I like about one shots or short campaigns is that they're inherently self-contained.
Yeah.
And I find them much easier to do a quality time dungeon mastering because the material is such that you can keep most of it in your head in one go. Mm-hmm. And I find that whenever you're DMing for a gigantic year-long campaign,
you start writing.
There's just too much. You have to write lots of notes, and then you're flipping through pages of notes, and eventually the dungeon master screws up and does something they shouldn't because they failed to keep track of the big picture.
Yep.
And I did that on my last campaign that I ran, and I profoundly regretted it. And it's just like it's why I'm going to encourage our group this year to try and do like 1 or 2 month shorter things because I tend to find them more enjoyable. I think anyway.
Yeah. Well, it also gives other people a chance to kind of expand those
to play different characters
abilities in different settings. It's like, and it's different things they might like. So like maybe. I'm not a big fan of it, but maybe one of the people in our group was like, I want to play the Vampire the Masquerade. And I'm just like, we'll talk about we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Yeah, it's the same way I am. I'm like, it's not really my thing. I'm like, cool. I like the concept of it, but it's way too sexualized in my opinion. Yeah. But anyways.
But I have enjoyed dabbling in some of these not as heroic campaigns. Like we did
the Star Wars one.
We did the Star Wars one.
I love that.
And I think I played a banker in that. And
yes,
I loved it. It was great.
Yeah,
it was.
You played a pilot.
It was nice. Now, one thing, and this is getting off topic now, which we always do.
What are you talking about? We're always on topic, James.
Matt Colville just posted a Kickstarter for a new RPG he's making, which is going to be explicitly high heroic fantasy.
Oh wow!
And so, for example, as you do challenges, you gain victories. And the more victories you have under your belt, the stronger your characters get, and the more their powers unlock.
Cool.
And then when you take a rest, which for his thing is 12 hours to a week, it's like a serious rest.
Yeah.
Then your victories turn into experience points.
Oh, that's cool.
And so rather than your characters getting weaker as they spend resources in D&D, you actually get stronger the further you push your luck.
Huh.
But you do have limited healing resources, so it's like the further you push it, you get more and more heroic and more badass, but you're also pushing yourself closer to the edge.
I like that.
There's very little out about it. He's got like an hour-long video on his channel, and he's got some mocked-up pages, but I already backed it.
To be fair, though, he is a genius in this kind of stuff.
I mean, he's a professional writer with 30 years under his belt, but he's also a game designer. This is not his first product. He's put out 4 or 5 5th edition type products, and so he's got the backing and he's got the company for it, and I think it'll be cool. Anyway, I thought about that because we were talking about game systems designed to do one thing well.
Yeah,
and I find that the older I get, the more I'm trending towards that. I would rather play something that is well defined.
Yes,
because the thing with something like 5th edition D&D is that you can do anything with 5e. But at some point, you have to ask yourself, why did I, as the dungeon master, do an extra 30 hours of work to shoehorn this square peg into this round hole?
That's how I feel about it sometimes. And it is fun. I feel like it's a good setting if you're introducing somebody to role-playing.
Oh, yeah. It's
so nice.
I'm not trying to detract from 5e D&D. It's a great system.
Yeah.
It does what it wants to do. And it's a very approachable, usable system.
But I guess, in my opinion, for a group of people like us that have been playing for such a long time, especially you and I.
I'm kind of getting worn out on this whole kind of mythical European fantasy world.
Yeah.
It's gotten to be bad.
100%.
I find myself wanting to play more and more indefensible characters to spice things up.
And I get that. And you can, that's the thing though too, you can always get it to where you can, and I feel like at a certain point, that's why if I would run a campaign like D&D, or especially a 5e campaign, I think I might get a little blowback because I like to make it slightly challenging, slightly more challenging, and put it to the point where you might actually like wipe.
Which 5e doesn't do very well.
No, they don't. That's why I liked 3.5 quite a bit.
And I like that about the Pathfinder system is that you can definitely wipe in Pathfinder.
Oh, yeah.
But the complexity of Pathfinder was a bit much for our group, and it got to where managing the rules of the system took more energy than it was worth.
It did start to lean on that a little bit.
It would have been better to just play second edition D&D or something.
Yeah.
I like something more challenging. I find that I also, over time, have gotten more interested in culture as part of the DM experience. I like building cities and building cultures for the players to explore. And I've been toying around with the idea in my head of playing like a one culture campaign, or at least putting some limits on party composition, like saying, hey, you guys are going to be a party of all dwarves or something. Because I think having the creativity is born of constraint, we'll put it that way.
Yes, very much so.
And I find that it's very hard for me to kind of provide that experience whenever there's always an oddball or two who's like, I'm a dwarf from the second continent away. And I'm like, well, forget everything I just made because this doesn't...
Yeah, really, that doesn't help. How did you get over here? It's like, okay, this is dumb, kind of thing. I completely understand that.
Anyway, we've trailed a long way from Cthulhu.
No, it's okay. So, talking about like kind of some of the where a lot of these RPGs kind of like boil up from a necessity of being more of a focused type of RPG. So this was really interesting. I thought that this RPG has been around for some time. So originally it was called the Dark they called it Dark Worlds is what they originally called it, but they never published it. But this is back in like 81. This has been years ago. So they actually, the lady named by the name of Sandy Peterson, she contacted Chaosium and asked them about regarding them having them write a supplement for the popular fantasy game Rune Quest set in Lovecraft's Dreamlands. And that's kind of where they ended up taking over and started writing the kind of Call of Cthulhu game, and they ended up taking this supplement and ended up making it more of a fully formed system after the fact. Because that's where a lot of these games were back in the day, is they were either supplements or they were half-cocked ideas that came off of a supplement, or they did a lot with the old D&D stuff, like the old modules that people made people would break off like, I really like this module, and I like how they changed the systems up in this a little bit and they make it something else. But it was really interesting. But yeah, over time, obviously, like everything else, it went through several systems. The main thing I will point out, though, that I believe it was the one of the editions was not well received. I'm trying to remember if it was 6th or 5th, but I can't remember. But anyways, they did do some major alterations for the 7th edition, which is this. Apparently, the way that they run these campaigns and the rules that they have set up, if you look at some of the even 6th or 5th editions that I kind of dabbled in a little bit, I looked at it a little bit. They have some significant changes in it, like the way you're able to regain points is significantly harder. Like if you thought it was hard, to do it this time, I think they kind of mellowed it just a tiny bit, so that people would come in, because I think not as many people were as interested in it because it was hitting that wall of this is not even, it's not even fun anymore. I was kind of noticing.
The more modern audience is less interested in the super, super gritty games in general. Like something a little more approachable tends to be favored now.
Very much so, yeah.
But especially the crunchiness of the system.
No, yeah, 100%. But yeah, just kind of the reception whenever this came out in the 80s, even up to now, most people loved this. Obviously, they said even just for the artwork they had in it, because even D&D at the time, the old D&D like first and second editions, they had art. They kind of made it a staple, right? You have artwork in the books to describe things, except maybe the very, very first books that Gygax came out with. I'm sure it was just pages of notes, just tables and things like that. Yeah. Maybe except for the cover on it. But that's kind of like the stereotype, or the stereotype of these books now are the not the stereotype, the pedestal that you have to hit. Yeah. That tier that you have to hit.
Artwork is part of an RPG's presentation.
100%. Yeah.
Mentioning the Matt Koval thing, you should look at some of the kind of numbers he's talking about, what they spend on artwork. It's a lot. It's a large portion of the development of their books. It's just the artwork of the book.
Well, it's because it draws the person in, and they're like, "Oh, that looks interesting," and that sucks them in. So, but yeah, obviously, over the years, they've won several awards for just implementing and ongoing this kind of stuff. But it's one of those things. It's so much so that this setting was actually been adapted a couple times, I think, to video games. They actually came out with a video game a while back, just straight up called Call of Cthulhu, where you're a guy walking around, kind of investigating a horror, or a set of horror, mysterious things going on in a place called the Sunken City. It's one of those things. It's really interesting, and you kind of interact with some of those old gods here and there, but. I think I actually bought it. I haven't played it yet, but I need to play it at some point. But
I think they said in 2021 on Roll20, Call of Cthulhu was the second most popular game right after Dungeons and Dragons, and it's just I think kind of in the general atmosphere of despair of our modern era.
We talk about James.
Cthulhu is hitting harder than ever. So
100%. Yeah,
it's this type of cosmic horror is almost mainstream now. You can see it all over the place.
Yeah, so much so that
right now people are more kind of dabbling with the aesthetic of it, I think, more than the actual philosophy of it. But it's because, like I said, to really understand what they're talking about is soul crushing. But
that's
definitely the aesthetic of it is gotten quite popular.
We talking about it's Cthulhu plushies? What are you talking about, James?
It's something of a meme with K-pop songs now too.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I saw that a little bit. I was kind of like, "What the fuck is going on with this?" But whatever. You know what? Hey, you know what? Koreans, you do your thing. Have fun with it. So, but yeah. Either way, though, James, I thoroughly enjoy this system. I would highly recommend anybody that is looking for a different system other than your standard D&D. Go out and check it out. It's a fun system. A lot of the rule sets you can find online for free. I was lucky enough to let you guys actually bought this for Christmas for a while ago. You actually got me the keeper tile and everything like that. It was really cool. When I'm actually looking at trying to buy some more of the modules, because I want to have.
Well, I will say, if you do want to play this, I would highly recommend you read at least one HP Lovecraft story first. I mean, David mentioned like watching Hellboy and stuff, and they're adjacent. Yeah. But the Innsmouth, it's not quite the same. The Innsmouth horror, for example, has an excellent theatrical audiobook thing that you can get on Audible. Yes. It's fairly short. It's like an hour or something.
It's not very long. Most of those stories are
incredibly well done.
Yeah, most of his stuff is they're like short stories, and they pile them all together. And putting aside HP Lovecraft's political and personal views, he's a very good author.
He's a terrible person, but he's a wonderful,
terrible.
He's a wonderful author, though.
Yes, he's a wonderful author, and you can definitely see it bleed through all of his stuff, and it definitely instills that fear in you. But yeah, even if another one you could even look at if you want to watch something a little bit more modern, or even just watch something, John Carpenter's The Thing is a prime example of that. Of that kind of idea. But yeah, I love that kind of stuff. But yeah, go out and check it out, guys. James, before we head out, how many cultists of Yawgmoth would you give this out of 10?
It's at least an 8 tentacle work, I think.
At least an 8 tentacle work? I like it.
It's good. It's very, very good. It does what it wants to do very well.
Yep.
It is a niche thing. It's not something I could play forever. Yep. But I'm reaching the age where I would rather have a little bit of a good thing than a lot of a bad thing. So I enjoy this a lot.
And on that note, we're not going to, so we don't give you too much of a bad thing. We're going to sign off, and we'll see you guys next week. James, thanks for coming in and waxing tentacle philosophy with me today. So many multiple eyes and multiple tentacles.
Anyway, I'm resisting the urge to make a waxing tentacle joke, but since you brought that up.
I know, I'm sorry. I was trying to be good and not talk about tentacles this whole time, but it all spilled out at the same time. Out. You know how it is. But anyway, guys, thanks for coming and listening. We'll see you guys next time. See you, James. If you're interested in keeping up to date with new episodes on our channel, add us on any of your favorite podcasting apps, or subscribe to our YouTube channel at Seriously Pointless Conversations. If you have questions or concerns, please email us at seriouslypointlessconvo@gmail.com. We appreciate any feedback. Thank you for listening to our show.